Hello and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark. I am a serial entrepreneur, CEO of Leadershipity, and a couple other businesses as well with Aim for NIL and certainly Asheville Acquisitions. And I'm a global speaker, speaking in over 17 countries worldwide, and just wrote a book, Leading Winning Teams. Excited to publish that with Wiley Publishing and hit the bestseller list for business management. So we're all excited about the book that released on August 20th. Go pick it up. And of course, most people know me because I spent over 12 years in professional baseball coaching in 3 World Series. And today on the Winners Find a Way show, I have Anderson Salgado. Anderson, how are you, buddy?
Hey, Trent, thank you for having me, brother.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you, man. This is going to be awesome. Another great Winners Find a Way show. And I have the founder here of Trisbell, but you're just a founder of one of 3 companies here now. You've also got Dall'Italia, which is incredible. Online Italian, what is it? It's a retailer, right?
Yeah, think of Amazon for Italian products. So it's a mini Amazon for Italian products.
Nice. I love it. Mini Amazon. And of course, one of the most passionate projects you have right now is Fund Logic, where you are funding Christian businesses. And in an environment where funding is pretty challenging right now, you are in a very tight, narrow path of exactly how you're going to do this and where you're looking for organizations.
That's right. So we found essentially that a lot of the businesses of today do believe in the same things that we believe in, whether it is family, the nuclear family. We want to obviously move the country forward. We want to make sure that there is capitalism and meritocracy across the way. And a lot of the things that businesses need, as you probably know, is oftentimes funding. So whether it is from a line of credit or we do certain things, obviously, to get Christian businesses funded, we implement obviously a rigorous approach of the same thing is like, what is it that your business needs? What's your current business like? What your cash flow? What's your credit? Enabling the owners and the leadership of that particular company to thrive. But we have Christian foundations at the root cause. So the idea behind it is to really empower businesses that do embody and want to ensure that, again, the family oriented business thriving mentality and finding a way of succeeding is at the epicenter of it all. So that's my exciting project. My other 2 projects are phenomenal as well. Trisbell, it's an agency of Amazon and Shopify products. So we help brands accelerate growth on the Amazon and the Shopify ecosystem. And Dall'Italia, as you previously mentioned, is a mini Amazon for Italian products. I found passion in Italy when I traveled there. I saw every product was crafted with the highest quality, best ingredients and formulation. And I said to myself, I got to do something. I got to get my hands in a bunch of Italian products. So that's what we did. And that's our exit strategy, finding obviously the way to succeed in this crazy economy.
Yeah, and I tell you, it's and by the way, what a good business write-off to have to go to Italy and check on things and business. That's
we
gonna,
go we go every year. We go every
of course you do.
year.
Of course you do. Are you in Seattle or are you in Salt Lake now? Where are you at exactly?
I'm I'm in Salt Lake. So a couple of my
Okay.
companies are set up in Seattle and Washington State. One of my ventures is set up in Florida. So I'm a fan of Florida as well. But I live in Salt Lake City. I love the mountain. My wife and I have a great, spot here close to the mountains. We wouldn't trade it for the world. The summers are beautiful. The winters are crazy. But that's when we travel during the winter. We go to Italy in March. We go to Florida in January. So
Yeah.
a little bit of that diversification does help to go through
Yeah.
the winter.
Well, you've done a lot of things, and for everyone who knows, Anderson's an expert. Anderson's an expert at funding. He's an expert on the e-commerce world. A lot of people reach out to him. You can reach out to him on Minect. I like this little system. Minect is a place where you find experts. Anderson, tell them how else other people can connect with you, LinkedIn, other things that they can find you at.
Yeah, LinkedIn, Anderson Salgado. But the other one that I really like is our Instagram page. So the Salgado Squad. I do anything to help our community. A lot of people reach out to me um, with an intent of growth. hey, what can I do for my business if I'm on the Amazon side? Hey, I need funding, and I got in a line of credit through Blueprint on American Express with a percentage of 30%. What can I do to minimize that? There's a lot of tools that we have at our disposal. We also run a podcast by the name of Faith, Frontlines, and Fortune. But those two are the best channels that you can communicate with me directly. Either Connect, you can do text message or schedule a call with me by looking for me on as Anderson Salgado on Connect app. And Connect is spelled Mike, India, November, November, Echo, Charlie, Tango. So Connect. And the other one is on our Instagram, the Salgado Squad. Those are the best ways to get a hold of me.
Love it. Love it. Now, what a lot of people may not know, I mean, you don't hear it in your voice, is you're Venezuelan. I mean, you grew up in Venezuela, did not come to the States till you were 15 years old when your family brought you over, and you're the first college grad in your entire family.
Yes, sir. I still have an accent. I'm not gonna.
I mean, a little bit, like,
I feel it. I feel it. But yeah, I came to the U.S. when I was 15. My story is very particular. I came as an immigrant. We came with a tourist visa, as a matter of fact. My dad had high hopes to get essentially his work visa through the company. He came in false pretense. The company was never had any intention to bring him over in any type of work manner. So we overextended our visa. I was a kid. I was 15 years old when I came, so I really had no say in the matter. So we overextended and we went into illegal status. So we had the option either go back. The situation in Venezuela, as it is today, was very dire. Chavez was in the government. Things, persecution started kind of getting more intense on people with some sort of economic status. My dad decided, is like, hey, listen, what do you want to do? You want to go back or you want to stay? And this is a 15, 16-year-old kid. And I said to him, Dad, what are we going to go and do back there? It's like, no, let's stay here. Look, man, I don't mean to blow sunshine in my behind or play the victim card. I never play the victim card. But we lived in a shed in Homestead, Florida, in the ghetto of Florida, in the middle of the swamp. I don't want to say in the middle of the swamp, but it was definitely close to the swamp. And my dad was brave enough to ask the owner of the nursery if he can let him rent the shed. And I kid you not, it's like a 200 square feet shed, and he put drywall on it. He put a bathroom. He put a little kitchen. And when I got there, essentially, we had to repair a lot, but he did majority of the work. And we lived there for all throughout high school. I had the opportunity, and I was blessed to be able to get in the Marine Corps. I got in the Marine Corps with a temporary residency. And then once I graduated in the Marine Corps, then I was able to, or once I graduated boot camp, and I got stationed in California in Pendleton, I was able to request my entire family as a U.S. citizen. So I pay my dues, I like to say, to ensure that one, I served the country that opened the beautiful country that opened its doors for me and my family. And then the other portion is this is 2005. I felt a high obligation of not only serving because of 9/11. Interestingly enough, 9/11, right?
Yep.
And time of this recording is 9/11, which is clever. But I felt this duty and say, hey, I got to do my best. And finding a way of getting my residency, getting then citizenship, and requesting my entire family was at the epicenter of anything that I needed to do. I needed to get everybody legalized. My family is highly conservative. We come from, again, an oppressed communist country, so we wanted to do what would be right to the path of leadership and the citizenship, and the path of just making something for ourselves, and put the name of the Salgado name on the map. So it was my duty. I needed to be stoic. 16-year-old told my dad, no, Dad, let's stay. I'll find a way. and we sure did. So
Yeah.
looking
Hey,
fast forward,
that is I mean, for a second, pause here with man, this is not an easy path. I mean,
nah,
Homestead, Florida, Homestead's a little bit notorious because Andrew, Wilmot, Katrina. I mean, Homestead, I don't know, is an epicenter of apparently the worst hurricanes. We're just going to get smacked down and it's going to flatten this city every 3 years or something. So at one point, it just felt like a barrage of hits that Homestead took right down in the Keys, down near it. And this is probably like, I mean, your dad's got to be like, man, I'm fixing this stuff and we got to repair it again, again, again. Like this is crazy.
yeah. So I think Andrew was 96. We went through both Katrina and Wilma. I think those were in 2004 and 2005, if I'm not mistaken. Actually 2005, and it was devastating. I remember when I moved out and I was about to get in the Marine Corps. I was 2 weeks out. I told my dad, it's like, hey, come to my apartment. You can't live in here, man. And I'm glad he did. Again, it was completely destroyed. He had no electricity for, I want to say, 2 months, completely flooded. Pretty much we lost everything. But I I forget, I'm being completely honest with you. I forget those things. And the reason why I forget them is because it doesn't do any justice to me to dwell on the past and the pain. We just got to move forward. I think probably that's the best thing that my parents could have done to help me thrive. Is doesn't matter what you go through, this too shall pass. And
Mm,
if you're going through a difficult situation today, tomorrow will be a better day. If it's raining today, tomorrow will be sunny, right?
yeah.
And we tend to forget a lot of those episodes where we lost pretty much everything, but then we just rebuilt. Again, coming as an immigrant, you got to rebuild yourself. And I didn't speak the language. I didn't have any friends. I lived in a nursery, man. I was 3 miles away from anybody and anything. Um, but that didn't stop. You got to do, as a man, you have duties, and duties and responsibilities supersede my desires. Yeah, would have I want to grow up and be at 18 or 17 driving a nice car and going on dates and going to the movie theater? Perhaps, but then I wouldn't be the person that I am today.
Mm.
And that's what I am trying to instill in my kids, right? It's
Well,
nothing is given, everything is earned.
yeah, I really love that. Earn never given. I also love the statement. I think the mentality also is if I'm not here, I'm in a communist country that's ready to persecute us just for who we are, like just for breathing the air that someone thinks they own, right?
Right.
And while it's not a bed of roses, the alternative is actually much, much worse, much riskier. And I don't think Americans always get that, right? Like I think that we talk about that, like, hey man, you're unsure about America, you better thicken up your passport and find out like exactly how that works because it's challenging out there, man. And there's still X amount of billions of people in the world, and you got X amount that don't even have plumbing, right? Running water. I mean,
Right.
this is not some the things that we take so much for granted for in America that it's crazy. But so let's pivot a little bit because man, you come out of the Marine Corps and you're going to go into heavy deep education mode, right? Nova Southeastern undergrad, University of Miami graduate work, then postgraduate work, MIT, Caltech. You were honing a expertise in this craft of technology, which leads you to an executive position in Amazon ultimately. I mean, walk us through a little bit of that path because it was a relatively fast rise, if that's fair, Anderson.
It is and it isn't. We see it from a short scope and it's, a few years, but then we also see everything that came before it, right? I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't because of my experiences and the struggles. I got in the Marine Corps at the age of 19. 2005, December 28th, 2005. I remember the recruiter saying, "Hey, dude, I got a spot, but you got to ship out in 14 days." So I grabbed everything that I had in 14 days, and I shipped out to Paris Island, South Carolina. But as I'm going through the Marine Corps, one of my goals was like, I got to get my degree while I'm in, because if I get out, I was gonna do 20. Again, I was meritoriously promoted every rank except Lance Corporal. So I went through again, uh, private first class, corporal, sergeant, and staff sergeant, all meritoriously promoted. And if any of your listeners know what a meritoriously promotion looks like, it's pretty intense. You got to get the highest scores in your physical test. You have to have a ton of different things, deployments, have the ability to go on and provide extra hours of community service. You have to set yourself uh, 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 and separate yourself from the rest. So you have
Mm-hmm.
to be the epitome of a Marine. I became Marine of the Year in 2008, from I think it was like 20,000 different Marine Corps applicants. But that wasn't. I mean, all those were intense. But then I get out and thinking, okay, I'm gonna go back to and finish my degree. I had already done some classes. I get out for the first time in 2010, and the grass wasn't always greener, and I knew this, and the grass was actually pretty bad. I went back into serving. I was already a dad at the age of 25. My again my son was little, and my now ex-wife, but wife at the time, was just trying to go back and do the same thing, finish her degree. So it was terrible. We were living with grandma and grandpa, like in an extra room. It wasn't where I envisioned myself after being obviously successful in the Marine Corps. So I went back in, served a few more years in the Marine Corps, and then got out finally in 2013. So I did 3 more years, and then 4 more years after that in the reserves. But I had a different mindset. My mindset was I needed to not only do college and then get a master's degree, which I was fortunate to get. The GI Bill paid for it. And then my other intent was I need to separate myself from the rest. So I had the option to go either officer candidate school, but then I got recruited by Amazon. So Amazon tends to go to Ivy League schools or high regarded MBA programs to do some recruitment on the retail side. I went through a terrible process of elimination Amazon puts you through. It's 8 different interviews, 8 different people. You have to go and learn a ton on how to essentially pass these interviews. These interviews are in a very particular methodology using what they call the 14 leadership principles. I
Mm-hmm.
won't even go there because it's again a pain in the neck and highly complex. But then I'm now at Amazon, and I have a book of business of 600 million, 2,500 brands. So I needed to essentially grow and accelerate that particular category. 2 years in there, 1.7 billion in growth. But now I'm saying to myself, I can't build wealth while I'm on Amazon. I have to be off Amazon and do this on my own to then be able to build the wealth that I'm envisioning. So I leave Amazon, go from a $250,000 salary to now make $40,000. So, but I knew the path of growth and the path of success. Never sacrifice long-term engagement for short-term gains. That was my mindset. I knew what the
Mm.
path of 5 years is. So I did that. I went out, I started going more education, more expertise, putting myself out there. Got luckily again, fast forwarding, got featured in Bloomberg Magazine and Business Insider as a subject matter expert on Amazon consulting, and then the rest is history. And now we're doing all the other projects that we're doing, but it doesn't come as fast as you think it does, but it's not as slow as predicted. So
Mm.
is essentially a fighting game, and as long as you know what the light at the end of the tunnel is, it will be rewarding no matter what.
When you make a decision as an executive making good money, not the most money, but good
Yeah.
money in Amazon, I mean, what says, yeah, hey, I think this is a good idea. We should leave this nice comfort of this and start our own thing, and I'm gonna take this leap and be able to be successful on my own.
I think it's not often, as you probably know, entrepreneurs are not often making those decisions because they see the opportunity. It's either multiple ways. One is they're forced out and they're
Yep.
forced to do something. Two is something comes through the pipeline, they see the opportunity, and some of them will hesitate and stay, and some of them say, well, excuse my French, but they say, fuck it, let's go for it, right? What's the worst thing that could happen? And some other ones have a great support system that makes them realize that what the alternative is better than the current solution.
Mm.
For me, it was a combination of it all. I I helped a brand exit for 400 million while at Amazon, and thinking that they were going to send me a letter saying, "Hey, we would like to hire you to do that again. Let's go exit for another 400 million on a new brand." They just sent me a box of chocolates and a bottle of champagne. So that to me was such a slap in the face
Oh
that I
yeah.
said, "Listen, I guarantee if I do this thing on my own, I'll kill it." And then Amazon does something so particular that only Amazon does, and I don't know why they do it, but I understand why. Every 18 months, they want to switch your role. So you don't become a subject matter expert and you don't hold all the cards because they're process dependent, not people dependent, which I have assumed that same mindset in the businesses, right? Don't be like mission first, people or family or people are always, right? But n- don't use your people completely as your entire business. Utilize the process and the people enable and work on that process. So be process dependent, not people dependent. Amazon has that same mindset. They don't want you to be in a role for 2 years plus because now you are the person that everybody knows within that particular genre in order for you to make things happen. And now they're people dependent, so they switch you to something else every 18 months. My rotation was there. I actually overextended my rotation, so I was due to go somewhere else, and I think I was going to go primarily on the advertising side. So I was forced out to a certain degree, so I left instead and built me a bottle of champagne, and that was a slap in the face. And then the other one was, I can do this, and I had a great support system, so I went all in. So I think it was a combination of all three factors that pushed me out and enabled me to believe that I could do it on my own.
It's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about, you've had a couple great overcomer stories, right? And so we show the show Winners Find a Way because I like the quote from the Four Disciplines of Execution by McChesney and Covey that says, "Winners, when shown data that they are losing, find a way to win." Take us back to a time, as you were driving through this and life changes and everything else, where you were saying, like, man, the numbers, it doesn't look good. Like, it's stacking up against us. I've got to do something different. Walk us through a little bit of what you had going and what you did about it, and then a little bit of the outcome.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting point, and I completely agree. One of the things that for me was pivotal was at Amazon. If anybody again knows how Amazon operates, they work you out. Like they get every penny they pay plus some more, plus interest. I was working between 60 and 80 hours a week. I would leave my house at 6 in the morning, come back at 10 most days, Monday through Thursday.
Wow.
Friday I would work until 5, and then I would put Saturdays and Sundays too, at least until noon. So on an average week, if it wasn't Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or any of the holidays, we were working 60 hours. The rest of the time, 80, somewhere between 60 and 80, but majority of the times 80 plus in some cases. And the numbers for me that kind of kept stacking up is my inability to dedicate time to my family. They have a very particular way of seeing things, and they don't believe in work and life balance. They believe in work and life harmony. And majority of my colleagues, again, Ivy League school, no kids, no family, mostly single in their 30s. And that mindset is, I don't care about family right now. I care about winning. I had a different philosophy. I said, I care about winning, but I don't want to sacrifice my family. So the numbers kind of stack in me not seeing the kids or me not spending time with my wife. And that had major implication to this day. It cost me my previous marriage, by the way. We grew up so apart, and I would not see them pretty much half of the time. And I think the other problem is that it kind of created a halo effect after Amazon as well. I was working the same thing. I was working 60 to 80 hours a week, and I wasn't delegating. I was a solopreneur at the time. I was just doing it all. And then something, again, extreme happened. Again, my wife and I, or my ex-wife and I, fell apart. We filed for divorce. And I look back and I say, okay, I know why I needed to make a change. And if I really wanted to do this and scale, I couldn't do it alone. I had to have a team, build a really good team, believe in my team. I love the book From Good to Great, of the ability of great leaders being a bus driver. And that bus driver has this mindset that they need to hire the right people, or the right people on the bus, the right people out of the bus, and the right people in the right seat. That was my new mantra. So I went from trying to work 80 hours a week to trying to multiply my hours by delegating and mentoring and guiding instead of doing it all. So the everything looked negative once I left Amazon. Even though I knew that it was a 5-year plan, not everybody, as you probably know, was going along with that plan, including my ex-wife, including my colleagues. They're like, dude, what are you doing? That doesn't make any sense. Or people that I graduated with, like, how do you leave a $250,000 job to go and make 50,000 and do it on your own and work the same amount? That doesn't have any type of common sense that any of us would do. But I knew it was the right thing to do. I just didn't sell my dream well.
Mm.
So multiple things happen. One, I didn't sell the dream or understanding on the repercussions that it would have, not on just my life, but on everybody around me, whether it was my family or my parents or anybody. They didn't know why I was in family affairs. They didn't know why I was always tired. They didn't know why I was always grumpy. And it's because I was working on something, but I didn't sell the dream. Fast forward, all those elements led me to now believe that winners, yes, find a way, but a lot of that finding way is through losing and sacrifice.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you lose a battle, but you don't want to lose the war, but you could lose a lot of battles. And I lost
Mm.
a lot of them. So that's kind of where I was derailed at one point, and then I found my way back. Again, Jesus was and I sell it anytime I can. Jesus was the life, the truth, and the way for me to go and find myself and find my talent and find my expertise, but more importantly, have the right mindset, have the right winners, mentality, and delegate. I cannot do it today if it wasn't because of my team or my family or anything that I built thus far. It didn't come from, well, I'm low on the scoreboard. I was at 0. I was -4. I lost multiple games, but it was that mindset that said to me, okay, what is going to really drive your success is not whether or not I'm in a lower score in comparison to my peers, but how fast I get back up and my ability to have the grit and succeed the way that I envisioned it, 7 years ago. So I think it was a combination of it all. But more importantly, I agree wholeheartedly with the whole concept of winners find a way. But for me, it was winners find a way, but I lost a lot in that process.
Mm,
And
yeah.
that losing led me to find a better way. And that better way is today. And I'm excited, and I trust what we're building. Happily married to the love of my life, best friend, partner in crime. She's awesome. She's a godsend. My kids are thriving. Everybody's healthy. But it was painful to go through it, losing a lot, not finding a way at the moment was the probably the best thing that happened to me to now find the way years later.
Yeah, I think it's a great example of how you developed your way of leading winning teams. I mean, your agency's winning, they're helping people win all the time. You've got products that you love in Italy, in a business back that you know very well, in and out from your e-commerce and Amazon days, winning. And of course, now you're in this passion of fund logic, helping business owners win, where funding is hard. And not just having a funding agent, but having a partner in that, in fund logic, is a big deal. And there's obviously a purpose behind that, because you're interested in Christian businesses that understand the culture values that are created. I happen to be a member of Samaritan Ministries, and that is a health group
Mm.
that is a lot of Christian folks that support one another in your health needs. That's all it is. I mean, I don't carry thousands and thousands of dollars of health insurance. If something happens to my children or me or something, and there's hospital, there's doctors, we submit our claims to a Christian organization that disperses amongst other
Love it.
believers who live in the values, and they go, hey, now there's qualifications in that, right? Because Anderson, if you're out there going out and doing drugs and not living a Christian lifestyle, they're like, you probably shouldn't be in here, right? This isn't a ministry group for you, and maybe judgmental. But by the way, if you're living right and living on moral values, it's amazing how few health actually challenges you have, right? Like
Yeah.
a lot of health challenges are caused by poor behavior, bad choices, definitely immoral behavior,
Yeah.
right? So, this is why I love this word, fund logic. I feel like we're losing logic, man. I mean, I feel like critical thinking, problem solving, logic is lost. I see these problems of the world today, and I don't love the word problems. And everyone who works with our firm knows we're not even allowed to say it. You, you
Mm.
know, all we
Opportunity.
got challenges. That's all we got is challenges. Because if
Love
I
it.
tell Anderson Salgado, hey, I've got this challenge, you immediately come to the edge of your seat, sit up tall, and go, hey, how can I help you in your challenge?
Yeah.
Because you're a winner and you've always been able to help people and you're a problem solver and this is what you've done. Now, if I go, man, Anderson, I got like 6 problems I'm dealing with right now. You're like, hey man, I got my own problems. I don't really want any of yours. It's a mindset. It's a wordsmith. It's a trigger that
Mhm.
people will not react positively to you. And as a leader, you better understand your words matter. And so the concern I'm seeing is the fact that people are trying to sell 2 plus 2 equals 7. And I'm like, I don't know where we're messing up this structure, but it's like logic's out the door. And there are simple things out in this world that have always been, and people are trying to push a different narrative like, nope, 2 plus 2 does not equal 4 anymore. And I'm like, what are we talking about? Like where did our logic and our simplicity go in that mindset? Tell me a little bit about where we lost track.
It's a very interesting question, and I agree with you. And often I see it as the 2 plus 2 is not even equal 7, and 2 plus 2 equals bananas. It's
Yeah,
like completely,
yeah.
it's
Not even a number
completely,
anymore. Like,
it's
hey,
not
you
even
see
a
it?
number. Or again, 2 plus 2 is equal depression, because we want to sell that
Mm,
depression or that feeling. We want to sell the feelings. one of the things, I have a 14-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter. One of the things that I communicate with my daughter very differently than I do with my son. And I'll use this analogy to partially answer your question. I think the way that we're talking to people now is from this position of entitlement, whether I have the entitlement or they have it, whether I'm right or you're wrong, and vice versa. And we're not open to dialogue. The way that I communicate with my son, I want him to have elements of stoicism. I want him to be, critical thinking and understand what's right and wrong, and understand that life is hard and nothing's given, everything is earned. I also am very tough with my son in comparison to my daughter. And the reason for it is because as a leader, I want to make the life of my wife as easy as possible, because I'm the mountain and she's the ocean. She's the one that goes through emotional roller coasters. I need to be stoic and I need to be firm. And again, agree to disagree. Some people don't like my approach because it's very they like to use this word now, misogynistic. Well, it's not. It's actually the opposite. I love my wife so much that I want her not to struggle, right? I don't hate her. I actually love her to make sure that she has everything that she needs, not necessarily everything that she wants, but everything that she needs. And I think that's where we are completely we have completely deviated, where we're now trying to fulfill everybody's desire, but we shouldn't live in that mindset. I don't give my son everything that he needs, and
Or wants.
to the or once, but I do my best so he has at least the most essential elements. He's got a bed, he's got food, he's got transportation, he's got me and my time. Now, to my daughter, I have a different approach. I'm still firm, but it's a more subtle approach. And because I want her to see me as, when she finds a husband, that husband treats her the same way I treat her. And I want my son to emulate that, to see that we're the tough ones and I'm going to be here when you need me. So I think that's where we split. We're trying to, again, make guys feminine, or boys feminine, and girls masculine. Girl, you can do anything that a man can. Okay, but should you? Like, should you do all of that? And my answer is, well, no. If you got a strong man in the household, no, you shouldn't, right? Um, so I think that's where we have deviated and split as a society, where everything is now given, right? That we live in a very entitled society, and in immediate gratification society, where we have mixed the roles of our kids and our population. When a teacher tells me that my son is hyperactive and he's always talking, yeah, he's a boy. He's hyperactive. He wants to play outside. He wants to do things. And my daughter perhaps is the more, you know, that whole mindset of a feminine girl. Got it. I love that. Why are you trying to change it? So
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, and to articulate better on my answer, and on your question, is we need to understand that biologically speaking, we have certain roles in society. Put people in a very precarious situation, and immediately they're going to go into their feminine and masculine roles. The guys are going to start building things and cooking and killing some stuff, and the women are going to come and take care of the kids and be there, protect I mean, I'm telling you, the more precarious the situation becomes, the more of male and female roles are accentuated. What I'm trying to do is, I want to build, as a Christian and as a society and as a community, some of those roles that embody essentially our biology, but more importantly, making it easy to understand that not everything is given, but everything is earned. And sometimes, and it's unfortunate to say, but when we're funding some of these companies, it's like, man, no, we can get you 100,000 or we can get you 500,000. You can get 50 because that's what you need. What you need, the moment that you start getting a bunch of other money that you don't need, you start spending like crazy.
Mm.
The moment that you're giving kids extra things that they don't deserve, or that you give employees or you give your family extra things that they don't deserve, then they become wasteful. And that's my mindset of today. I can care less about having everything, but I really care about having what I need to accomplish the mission. And that's what our society needs. That's what our kids need. That's what businesses need. So I'm using that as a very strong foundation to reel us back in the immediate community that I can. I think our country needs that overall. But if we can start in a community setting, in our family setting, I think we'll do our due diligence as citizens, as our productive members of society.
Good. Love that. So, all right, let's talk about funding because you're talking about people that are, this is a hard space right now. I mean, cash was a lot easier 4 years ago, man. I mean, and oddly, like cash was being thrown around like COVID, like 2020, 2021, man. It was like woof, 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 woof. It was like, wow.
They're paying
And
the price now, though.
yeah, right. And so now, of course, if people got it, they spent it. So it wasn't reserved for a rainy day. It was, how do I keep that and utilize that right now? And so, what if people are thinking like, hey, I've got to leverage good debt, good debt. I think there's a lot of bad debt that's leveraged out there, right? I've been charged with bad debt. Like I've been in the situation where I'm over leveraged on a property or something like that, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a minute, there's a $300,000 debt
Yeah.
on a property that's now worth $275,000. This is not great. This is what we call upside down in the market, right? And now, if you can service that debt, you can live another day, in the whole in the belief that that property will return, gain value, all that thing. Obviously, we saw this 07 to 09. I mean, valuations tank, right? So if someone's coming out and they're looking like, hey, I've got to fund my business, what kind of pointers are you telling people that's like the fundamentals of funding? You've got to be in position to have this foundation in order to have us see you as a viable entity to move and gain value. Walk me through that a little bit.
Great question. And I love the way you frame it because most people want money, but they don't understand how to get it, right? And often, whatever they want to get, as I mentioned previously, is not what they are
In
allowed
need
to
of.
get or more or in need of. So I'll break it down into multiple buckets, for the lack of better term. So I always say, get money when you don't need it versus when you actually need it. Let me pause right there and reiterate it. Get the money when you don't need it versus when you need it. Why? Because when you need it, you're now, not to sound redundant, but in a precarious position because the cost of that money is a lot higher. Put an example as a business. Let's say that your business is doing 500,000 a year, so you're still part of a small business. You're, you have a couple of employees. You're more of a solopreneur than an entrepreneur, but you're still trying to, again, go into that particular genre. I'll talk about more lending in a second, but if you are in this position, majority of the times you're essentially on an accounts receivable and an expense always. The money you get, the money you have to pay, you pay yourself, and you have very little reoccurring cash flow. One of the things that I always say to entrepreneurs is like, hey man, I can't get you the money you want today because your books look like absolute crap. This is what you need to do. One, you need to have 700 score or more. Anderson, but that's a lot. No, it isn't. Okay. I can pinpoint several YouTube videos that will talk about credit, but as long as you have long lines of credit, meaning if you have a credit card but you have had it for 8 years, that shows positively on your credit score and your credit report. If you are not overextending your credit limits, so if your total limit is $10,000, don't use 9,000. Your credit utilization is extremely important, right? So try to minimize that as much as possible. Don't overextend yourself. Then you're also looking into multiple avenues of credit. So if you have your home, and then you have your college, and then you have a credit card, and then you have your car, you have multiple lines of credit that aggregate to a larger credit. But as long as you pay on time and you don't overextend, you can fix your credit in 3 months. It's not difficult, right? So maintain good standards on your credit. Number one. Number two, your cash flow. If you're a business and you're doing 500,000 a year, but your account looks always on the negative, that's bad. So try to end every cycle of your accounting somewhere around $5,000 to $10,000. $500,000 in a business, let's round it up to $600,000 in a business. That's $50,000 a month. If you maintain some cash flow, positive cash flow on your account of $10,000 or so, you have great chances of getting the best line of credit we can. Because one, it shows not overextension. Two, you have a good credit and credit history. And then three, if you have equipment, don't buy stuff you don't need to impress people you don't like. Don't buy that G-Wagon so you decrease your tax liability, right? And decrease your profits so you pay less taxes, but now your books look like you're only making $30,000 a year in profit. Just maintain what you can, and the equipment that you buy is an asset, not a liability. A nice truck, man, is not going to do it. Will it decrease your tax liability? Yes, but now you're overextending your profitability that looks terrible on the books. As long as you have those three things and you have a plan of utilization of the funds, you'll get funded. I mean, look, I'm so strong in this belief that if your credit is good, your cash flow is good, the equipment that you have is the essential equipment that you have. And even if you don't have equipment, you're not overspending in things that you don't need. And you have a great plan for your assets and you're not doing any finicky stuff on your taxes, will get you funded to the point where I'm willing to put my own money if you don't. One of my goals is like, look, if everything is in order and you don't get funded, I'll pay you $2,000 in cash. That's how much I believe in the process. And the reason why I do that is so people understand that the options they have are available to them, but a lot of them are just ignorant of the process. So just to summarize it for you, great credit, 700 plus. Make sure that you look at your credit. Anything that you want to remove for your credit, remove it. Utilization is not maxed out. You pay your bills on time, and your lines of credit are long. That will get you 700 plus. Two, cash flow. Ensure that you have a good cash flow. 10 to 20% of cash flow at all times on the account will help. And the three, that any equipment that you have is actually for the business and you're not buying a G-Wagon, because that means that you're not frugal in your spending habits. So the moment that you get that $500,000, you're going to spend in a bunch of stuff that you don't need. And then the other portion is that you have a plan on what you're going to use the funds for. If you know that you're going to get 500,000, that 500,000 is, I'm going to hire this people, I'm going to hire this personnel, I'm going to buy this equipment, this equipment is going to generate X amount of dollars in extra revenue. Buying this technology so we can improve our process and decrease our expenses by this amount. You have to do it in a very particular way that looks good in order for us to say, this person knows what they're doing. They're going to use the funds for the right reason. They're not going to be overspending. And then on top of that, they have a plan to duplicate or triple that amount of money. That's the premise. I know it sounds complex, but it's very simple once you put it into practice.
Yeah, I don't think it actually, for people who are listening who are business owners, I do not think that sounds complex. And for most people who've been through the ringer on this. Now, I think the one thing, Anderson, that's a challenge is this isn't everybody's daily go-to, right? Like, you don't wake up and go, you know what, I got to do 4 times a week is I got to go get funding. So
Yeah.
people are only doing this once every 4 years, 10 years, so this isn't a once off. And I think this is also the challenge that we run into when we're positioning companies for selling. Like, hey man, I worked at it for 20 years. I only sell once. So no one hasn't practiced selling every year. And so when we go, kind of the key 5 elements of the pay line, people go, oh, well, transferability is important. Like, yeah, that's pretty important, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're the guy who's going to be leaving the company and you've been doing 90% of the sales, we got a transferability issue, bro. Like,
It's a
I don't know
leak.
how you're going to do it, like,
That's a
unless,
leak. If something happens to you today, you have
yep.
no business. You're the face of the business.
Zero. Yeah, what we call the bus complex. If you get hit by a bus, what happens, man? Like, it's over. I'm like, oh, well, we just lost 90% of our sales. So you went $2.2 million to $200,000 in value.
You
Like,
have no leverage. That's
everyone's
what I'm
getting
saying. Be
fired. Like,
process dependent, not
yeah,
people dependent. The
that's
moment that
right.
you have people dependency, your business is no business. It's just a
Y-
firm.
Yeah, I'd push a little bit on that. I think people are part of the process, right? They're
Sure.
critical in running the process, right? And I think Amazon obviously has dialed that up pretty good. I mean, you got a pretty good example of probably the far extreme of the other side, where process is everything, and like, we can get
Yeah,
monkeys and
that's too
if we
extreme.
can. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
agree with
yeah,
you. The moment that you go into that pedestal of hands off the wheel, that everything happens just because of an algorithm, then you
yeah,
have gone way too far in
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think the other side of this is the person who's like, yeah, I don't know, it'll all work out. I don't know. We just do you know how a sales goes through the office? Like, oh, I don't know. I guess some paper comes in and someone writes a check. Like, come on, man.
Sure.
Like, that can't be right, right? And it's not different on the last 13 clients. Like, there is some
Right.
structure, right? And it's a challenge, but man, this has been a fabulous conversation around so many things, man. I mean, I love it, Anderson, and for everyone out there, you know, Anderson's got a lot of insights on this. Obviously a very diverse background, the tech, the agency. Man, you guys done a lot of different things, and the view on family values and culture, I think, are really important. So you can connect. I definitely, ask, get on Connect. You wanna hear from Anderson. You want to learn from him. Get on Connect and find out. You can definitely connect with him there. You can find him on LinkedIn. You can find him at his sites with Trisbell. I was checking out Dall'Italia earlier, and I'm like, oh man, I love Italian stuff, right? So I'm like going, yeah, wait a minute, I might even make
And
some purchases.
I'll send you some stuff. Send me
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
your info after the
yeah,
call, after the recording. I'll be more than glad to
yeah. I
send you
love it.
some stuff over.
So you got stuff going, and I think a number of people that you're going to want to meet for Fun Logic and they're going to want to meet you. So I've got some connections there for you. So for
Fantastic.
everybody out there on Winners Find a Way, thank you to Anderson Salgado for joining us on another fabulous show. We are on Winners Find a Way every Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, on our LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, and the Leadershipity YouTube channel. You can find all over 140 episodes on our Leadershipity YouTube channel. You can get the video. All the podcasts are on all the major networks. Super fired up right now about the podcast just growing at wildfire. We have picked up over 50,000 new organic downloads since the book has launched August 20th. So we are just excited about our new clients, new people, our new listeners, our new subscribers. Please rate the show. We love to have you here. You can always reach me, Trent at leadershipity.com. Anderson, any final word before we go?
Well, first, I want to thank you for the opportunity, and I think the the ability for us to get some points across for people who need it, and for your channel is absolutely amazing. So I want to thank you on that. The last thing I would say, and again, I don't lose any opportunity to praise Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. Nothing happens unless it's with Him and through Him. And once I found Jesus, man, everything else was just the right touch. I'm blessed. I have a beautiful family. I want to ensure that, those of you who can live that same love with your families, do so. Life is short, but we're here to kill it, man. That's why we're entrepreneurs, right? So get back to work and get done what needs to be done. But remember exactly where you come from. So thank you. I appreciate
That's,
your time, Trent.
that's awesome. For me, Anderson Salgado, winners.